Hi, I'm Zena, and this is my reflection on my Woman Writers course. The text that stood out to me the most this semester was The Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin. And the reason why it stood out to me so much is because of the way that the author broke down the emotions of the woman when she found out that her husband had died. Throughout the story, she goes into great detail on how the news of Mrs. Mallard, her husband, died, how it affected her physically, emotionally. It just breaks down everything that was Mrs. Mallard was going through and her process in finding her joy and her release and her freedom in the death of her husband. And I found it ironic that she was freed from her husband's death. Like, I think that normally that's not what you think when you are presented with a marriage. You don't think that someone has to be free from it, but yet she was free because she was told that he had died. And I think that stands out to me, to the message that not every marriage is a perfect one. And sometimes you don't want to be in a marriage, you don't want to be in a relationship, but you aren't strong enough to leave the relationship. But when an opportunity presents itself, how much your body and how much your emotions can react to it. And then for her, Mrs. Mallard, in the end, when her husband was alive and he came back home, but I could just imagine the decision that she had to face. Like, now that I've received this revelation of me being free and me no longer being held down, and I can live for myself. Now the person that was holding her down is alive again. And so what do you choose? Do you choose to continue with the decision that you've already made to be free, or do you go back to being held down by this man that you do love, but you love yourself more? And so this decision was just too much for her to take, and it was just so sudden that it took her life. And they think that she was so happy to see him that her heart couldn't take it and she died, but she was in fact so sad and so torn to lose her opportunity on being free that her heart couldn't take that, and so that's how she died. But I think that is very interesting. That's a very interesting insight on a type of marriage, and I just really think that's a really cool that the author, she presented that to her readers. So a part of the passage that stood out to me the most was on the first page, and it says, she said it over and over under the breath: free, free, free. The vacant stare and the look of terror that had followed it went from her eyes. They stayed keen and bright. Her pulses beat fast, and the coursing blood warmed and relaxed every inch of her body. I think that's really a revelation for any reader to see this, how Mrs. Mallard was feeling upon the news. You would think that she's heartbroken, and then this is just like a twist. Like, what, free? What? Like, your husband just died and you're free? But I think it's really something that it's a turning point in the story that really reflects how Mrs. Mallard feels and shows another light, shows that it's not like the typical, oh, my husband died, I'm so sad. But even though my husband has died, I'm free. Like, I can do what I want now. I have free will. I don't have to be under what he wants me to do, but I can do what I want to do. And I think that's something that you wouldn't expect in this story, but yet the author took it there. And I think that's why it stands out to me so much, because the author was daring enough to like flip it around and like make the story mean something different. Tell a story that we haven't really heard that much, that we don't really hear a lot about, especially women of this time. This story, in relation to this course, has revealed that when women write about women, you get another story altogether. You don't get the typical story of, like, for example, when a woman husband dies, she's just so heartbroken that he has died. But when a woman writes about a woman losing her husband, she writes how free she is and how she's enjoying the fact that she's free. And throughout the course, these women write about other women's lives. And I think that's really great to reveal that to readers to say that, hey, this is another side of what women might be feeling. And I am thankful that I was able to see that. And this is my video presentation.